Good evening and welcome. We've got almost 80 people signed up for this, our first online provincial question and answer session. I'm Stuart Pearcey, the Provincial Communications Officer, and on tonight's panel we've got a number of other people from the provincial team. Gentlemen, if you give me a wave when I call your name. We've got Dave Wheeler, our Provincial Grand Master. We've got Tony Miller, the Secretary. We've got Steve Hallberg, the Treasurer. Pete Tong, the Charity Steward. John Grimwood, the Almoner, and Chris Watkin, who's in charge of the technical dimension. Just a couple of points of admin before we get stuck into the questions. It is possible to ask a question during the session, and you can let Chris know. You can type questions in. Hopefully you can give him a wave and he'll pick up on you, and we'll get those questions answered as best we can. We do have a number of pre-submitted questions which will cover a great many points that I'm sure are uppermost in your mind in these difficult times. Throughout, when we say lodge, we're talking about chapter and other orders too. And finally, from me, we're going to break off briefly at 8 o'clock for those who want to go out and clap for carers, and indeed put the bins out, as happens normally at our house on a Thursday. So we'd like to start with a few questions from the Provincial Grand Master by way of introduction. Dave?
Yeah, thank you, Stuart. First of all, can I thank you and Chris and everybody for attending tonight. To get, I believe we've got between 70 and 80 people joining in is tremendous. First time we've tried anything like this, and I think it's really important that we do try and communicate with everybody during what is a very, very strange time. So if I could just remind everybody of the overriding principles of Freemasonry, which is fairness, respect, integrity and charity. And I ask you all to be very kind to the panel. It's hopefully an information exchange and not a Jeremy Paxman type grilling. But thanks as well to the executive for joining in. We are busy in our daily lives with Freemasonry and other things. So it's great to have the opportunity to get us all together this evening. Finally from me, if it goes well, then we can do another one. But we would need feedback about that. We don't want to bombard people with information. So if it does go well, we'll do another one. And there is no time limit on this evening. So we'll take as long as it takes. But when Tony Miller starts to nod off, then we know that we've outstayed our welcome. So from me, welcome to all of you. And I hand over now to Stuart for the first question.
Very well, thanks, Dave. So the first question, so many follow on from this one, it's do you have a feel for when a resumption of our normal activities might take place?
I think it depends on three things, really. I think the government advice is critical, and when they do eventually announce that we can meet in groups of larger than, say, 10, then I think that's what we would be able to do. I think the next important position is the United Grand Lodge of England, who will issue guidance as they've issued the suspension. And when those two things come together, then I think it's down to us as a province and individual lodges then to decide how they're going to work. So, for example, if the government say we're able to meet in groups and Grand Lodge agree that we can meet in groups, then obviously with social distancing, all sorts of extra rules and regulations, then I think we would be able to meet in some form. The District of Hong Kong has recently started to meet in craft lodges again with face masks, social distancing and all sorts of rules, and no festive ball, I understand. But I do genuinely think that we're quite a long way from that position, and hand on heart, I would love it to be soon, but I think it'll be probably towards the end of the year, if at all, during the rest of this year. My overriding issue is, yes, we comply with the government advice. Yes, we comply with what Grand Lodge tell us, but ultimately it's got to be about our health as a province. And I think a lot of people at the moment would not go to a lodge meeting for all the reasons that we know about. So a bit of a long answer, but I think we'll take it in stages. When the government open up more activities, We will be at the end of that queue because we are a voluntary organisation and it is a hobby and a social activity. We'll get guidance from Grand Lodge, and if we're in a position to meet and hold a quorum and get the business started again, then that's what we'll do.
Okay, thank you very much for that one. Still on the resumption theme, Dave Harness from Temple Bellwood and Chuck Bolton of Paulinus are interested to ask that many lodges will have missed scheduled installation meetings, and clearly many more are going to do so from what you just said. Is there any guidance on what lodges should do when we go back? Should they stick to their installation date, or is there a need to carry out a special installation meeting and then revert to the original month at some point? I wonder if that's an admin one for Tony.
It is indeed. In fact, this is covered in Rule 108 of the Book of Constitution. At the moment, I can see from a rough look through the Blue Book, we've got 16 lodges affected by this. If they've held their ballot to elect the master and then miss their installation date, then the current master continues in office for the rest of the year. It's taken as though the master has died in office or has been unable through whatever circumstances not to attend the installation meeting. For those lodges that have missed both their election meeting and their installation meeting, the same applies. The current master will continue in place till the next regular election and installation meeting. Hopefully that makes it clear for people.
Just one kind of rider to that, if I may. What about people who've already been in the chair for 2 years? They'd not normally be allowed to stay, would they?
Well, I don't know about that one, and that one I would take up with Grand Lodge. But at the moment, if the master hasn't been installed, according to Rule 108, the current master continues.
Right, okay. There's a question here that starts off in Knights Templar, coming from Graham Cadell. He says that Knights Templar have decided that the election and installation of the preceptor can, under the current circumstances, take place at the same meeting. Can we expect this, he says, to be copied in craft lodges and Royal Arch chapters? I suppose the first part of that question is to explain what the preceptor is in Knights Templar. Sorry to throw this one at you.
Well, no, it's not a problem, because the Book of Constitution says that you cannot elect and install the master at the same meeting.
Right, well, that answers that one. Thank you.
Stuart, can I add to that?
Sure.
If through reasons of the coronavirus that we have to have more meetings more quickly and dispensations are required, then we will grant those dispensations and they will be free of charge.
Good, thank you.
I just felt Steve Hallberg twitching there, but it's true.
That's good for me.
Sure he did. I wonder if you could expand for us, please, on the notion that if we are able to get back together, how we might manage in ceremonies whilst maintaining social distancing. You spoke earlier, Dave, about Hong Kong not doing festive boards. Have you got any feel for what they do actually in the ceremony proper?
No, I don't. David Staples, I spoke to David on Tuesday, and he's writing to the District of Hong Kong to find out exactly how they're going ahead with their meetings. But we understand it is with face masks, keeping a 2-meter distance, very small groups, and everything being very, very tightly controlled. So I'm absolutely sure that when we get some guidance, we'll be able to circulate that. But I do think we're quite away from that at the moment.
Thank you. Okay, John Grimwood, question for you now. Whilst we're not meeting, do you think we're doing enough to support almoners in their work to care for older and more vulnerable brethren, particularly those without access to communications technology?
The question's a bit disconcerting because it says, are we doing enough? As Provincial Grand Almoner, I would have to say that yes, we are. We have, as you know, 74 lodges and 72 lodge almoners currently. I have been in contact by email with everyone. every week since the lockdown started. The members who were the almoners who did not respond to emails, I've telephoned, and so I have actually communicated with every almoner during this period. I've had a few requests for advice, but I've had an awful lot of information from all of them via the telephone or responding to emails, and I do believe that they have reached out and communicated with all of our members and widows, etc., and all of our vulnerable members, bearing in mind that many of the almoners are in lockdown because of their age, as many of us are. They have the support of many younger members. They've been very innovative. They are using younger members. They're using members of lodges who are close to the widows or the vulnerable members, and they're using WhatsApp on a regular basis. They're using Zoom and other forms of communication. And I would like to think that no one has been neglected. Now, obviously, I can't put hand on heart and say that everyone's been contacted, but I do believe that they have. That's the short answer.
That's a fine answer. Thank you very much. But sticking with support, Dave, perhaps I could come back to you and say that with charities nationwide having suffered a loss of income, can you tell us a little bit about how UGLE and the Freemasons charity, the MCF, are working together to put money where it's needed?
Yes, I can. I'm fortunate or unfortunate to be the nominated representative for our region. So within RCG 6, we have been working very closely together to share out some money that the MCF have offered. It's £1 million to all the provinces and 100,000 to each district. But beyond that, and David Innes was on a meeting, who is the chief executive of the MCF at the moment, on Tuesday. The MCF are looking now at longer term issues, things such as mental health, bereavement counselling, domestic violence, refugees, and carers, particularly young carers. So they're looking at all of those as a global issue, and also dealing with local bids that we're putting in and regional bids as well. So they've already put a tremendous amount of money into age concern over the last year, and they're putting more in there. They put a tremendous amount of money into Mind, and they're looking how they can work again with Mind. But I think the initial phase that we were all involved with was food banks, PPE, meals, instant things, and that's absolutely right. What they're now looking to do is move towards what they're calling phase 2, which is the longer term issues. They keep making the point, and I know John has made it many times, John Grimwood, that the helpline is available to everybody if people need help. And at the moment, they're not inundated with calls, but they are preparing for calls later in the year, but they are ready now. And I think they're also very keen to stress that they have started a COVID-19 relief chest. And when the donations reach £1 million from Freemasons, they will match that amount. Now for Lincolnshire, that's really important, because anybody who donates to the relief chest for COVID-19 also gets credit for our festival. And the second point is that as of this morning, the donations from Freemasons had raised just under £700,000 in just over 3 weeks. So that's already £1.4 million that they're going to use for the longer term issues. And I think, just to quote Bruce Goodman, our Assistant Provincial Grand Master, at a meeting we had last week, Bruce made a really good point that the money that the MCF is spending now has come from previous festivals that we've all supported over the years. So this is not a promotion to donate to our festival, but you can see where I'm going, that anything we put in now is going to help in the longer term. And I think I've seen tremendous examples of the way the money has been spent, and it just is overwhelming to see what's happening all across the country. And the biggest example of that, you're probably all aware of it, is a donation over 1,000 tablets, iPods to hospitals, so that vulnerable people who have no contact with the outside world have now got that, and that was given to hospitals all over the country. Now, our region didn't bid for that. We felt in this region we were pretty well supported. I actually spoke to the chair of the NHS in Lincolnshire, and they actually didn't want that at that time. And I think we all did that in our region. But you think of the amount of money and coordination involved in just that one operation, and I just think it's been a magnificent response, and we should all be rightly proud of that.
Dave, we've got a question coming in from David Buckingham on the previous topic. Can a dispensation be granted to elect a new worshipful master electronically to facilitate the installation at the first meeting of the next meeting?
I think that's a secretary question, Tony.
It is indeed, and the answer is no. No.
Snail mail it is.
We might have to resort to very old-fashioned methods and using the postal service.
So, a summons has to go out, and there has to be a regular meeting.
Oh, that's clear enough for you, Dave Buckingham. Still with you, Tony, if I may, moving on now. This is a question from Roy Mead of the Fenland Daylight Lodge. The lodge, he says, would have balloted for 8 joining members following them having been proposed and seconded at the full meeting in December last year. And he wants to know, as a full 12 months will have passed by March next year, will the Forms P and the proposals still stand? Or does he have to propose and second those applications again?
Joining members, once they've been balloted for, have 12 months to take up that membership. If they've been balloted for and all been approved, all they need to do is write in and accept the membership. They don't have to go to a meeting, they accept the membership. If they don't accept the membership within 12 months, then it's void and you have to go through a whole process.
No, but his point is that they would have been balloted in March.
They haven't been balloted for.
No, they haven't. They would have been. The meeting didn't take place.
If they haven't been balloted for, then they'll need to go through the process again because 12 months will have elapsed from the proposal.
Okay. Still with you while we've got you on the screen.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Tony Reeve of Pharos Lodge has a query about the knock-on effects of delayed installation ceremonies on first appointments and promotions to provincial grand rank. He wants to know if the time should be calculated from when an individual would have gone into the chair under normal circumstances, or the date they actually did whenever the delayed installation takes place.
It will be from the date they actually attain the chair, because in some cases masters have not been able to take up their office in the past, and so have missed out and had to wait a year. And it's unfortunate that it will only be from the date that they actually take office. And for those that haven't been installed already, that are going to have to wait till the next installation. So you can hardly backdate it to when, well, I should have been really master last year. He wasn't. It's the same as the yearbook will still show last year's officers if they haven't already had their installation and appointed new officers.
Okay. I see Dave Buckingham is getting the grip of this technology. Do you want to share that question with us, Chris? Okay, well, I'll do it then. Dave Buckingham again asks, what plans are being made strategically for Freemasonry to return for some form of normality, whenever that is? I guess it's too early to make any kind of plan, isn't it?
Yeah, I'll answer that. I think the first answer that I gave explains where we are. We're very much reliant on what the government are doing. Yeah. When they make their announcements, Grand Lodge will make an announcement and we'll follow it through. We won't do anything that contravenes government policy or Grand Lodge advice. And as soon as we know what those are, then we can start to plan what we're going to do locally. And I think for David's position, don't be concerned, because it's the same issue for 47 other provinces, and we all should be working towards the same goal. But I keep stressing, and I will say it again, that we will try and do things safely for our members. If I give you a correlation, which I've got to get in because I'm a football fan, The Premiership may be starting next month, and I just think that's a very poor decision personally, because I think that the health of the players and those arranging the matches can't be guaranteed. That's probably done for different reasons. I would rather we took our time and got it right and safe. So at the moment, nothing is being put in place because we don't know what the guidance is going to be. As soon as we do, we'll put things in place. We do have a weekly executive Zoom meeting where all these things are discussed, but the return to work plan at the moment is not my priority. My priority for the province is to make sure that we're keeping in touch, we're looking after our vulnerable brethren, and we're trying to do the best we can in a situation that none of us have ever been through before.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, let me bring Steve in at this point, if I may. Another question from Dave Harness, who says, does the province have a view on member subscriptions? If the worst happens and some or all lodges don't hold meetings in their subscription year, will members still be expected to pay stubs? Similarly, he says, will the province and UGLE fees be expected to be paid as normal?
Well, I think it's actually too early to speculate about the subs in future months. What I would say is that refer people to the article which I will, which is going in the on the website next week. And in that article, I do actually talk about helping the treasurers, helping the lodges, and just really trying to keep the ship steady. What I would want people to bear in mind is that, you know, the lodges, the province, and UGLE for that matter, they're all in unincorporated associations. They're very much like small companies, and we do. All of them have overheads which they've got to face, and they've got liabilities they have to pay. And I'm just, you know, thoughtful of the fact that, you know, for example, I've been looking at costings with the province, and really, you know, if we cut everything to the bone, literally, the fee we currently charge is £13, and I can't get the figure below £9 at the moment. So, you know, there is a delayed effect. We've also got to remember that we actually, as a province, we work a year in arrears. A lot of people don't sometimes realise that. In other words, we collect in January, February, March next year, that's 2021, the fees for this year, as indeed in January, February, March 2020, we collected the fees from 2019. So there's always a year's lag. And that is something that some people don't quite readily understand. And obviously it would take time to unwind that and to try and get back to some kind of normality. I think, in essence, I'm really trying to say we, as a province, we're always looking to save money where we can. We've been doing it for 3 years now, on all sorts of fronts. So we are doing our very best. I think as time goes on, things may change, but at this moment in time, I suggest in the short to the medium term that we all act in the way that we would expect ourselves to act as Masons, and that's just be prepared to put our hands in our pockets, to pay our subs regularly until such time as things change in a longer term. I really would like to think that although this thing may well go on for 9, 10, 11 months, that people will just take the view that I did my bit, I supported the lodge. You know, my lodge is 116 years old this year, I think, and I've been a member for 34 years. And, you know, I wouldn't want to not pay my sub and put the lodge in any kind of financial jeopardy. That's the simple answer, although I have rabbited on a little bit. I apologise for that. It's something which is very close to my heart. You know, the important thing is, as far as the province is concerned, we couldn't not keep having some kind of income because it would be disastrous. As I say, I've done some costings and I can't get the figure below £9 per head at the moment. So I would expect the brethren to act in the way we would expect Masons to act. Simple as that.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Steve. If I can come back to you, Tony, on a... Oh, Tony's asking me anyway. Fire away, Tony.
Subscriptions, Stuart. there's certainly been no communication from UGLE about them not charging. So till I hear that, or till I get the new forms through about what treasurers need to pay, it looks as though everybody will be paying the correct amount.
Okay, thank you very much. While you're on the screen, Tony, can I offer you a much simpler one? This is a question from Barry Harriman, who's the Secretary of the Lodge of Aveland, and he says, as Secretary of my lodge, I always number our meetings. In the current situation, do I count the meetings we've missed as having happened, i.e. give them a number, or do I start numbering again when we restart?
My view is that they would just record in the minute book all meetings suspended. If you haven't had a meeting, you can't number it. So they'll restart the numbers, it's our 145th regular meeting, because otherwise they haven't had a regular meeting. So I would say the numbering ceases and starts again the next regular meeting.
Okay, thank you. A couple of questions about technology now. Firstly, from Trevor Metcalf of 100 of Ello, he says, given the reluctance of many retailers to handle cash, will the province be exploring the viability of using card readers in lodges for meals, bar purchases, etc.? Steve, is that one for you?
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to answer.
John wants to comment on that in a moment as well.
Several of the lodges who are already using that kind of method, Grimsby and Cleethorpes, for example, and it's a great idea. As time goes on, we're all becoming more and more or less cashless, aren't we? We don't use cash to the extent we ever used to. So there's absolutely no problem as far as I'm concerned. All I would say is that the choice of the card provider needs to be looked at, because some of them will use, for example, a minimum charge. You might go into the fish shop and it'll say that they won't use a card for less than £5 or something. There's a commercial or economic reason why they do that. So all I would say is it's a good idea. I think inevitably this is the way it will go, and I certainly have no problem whatsoever with it.
Okay, thank you. John wanted to come in from that, and so did Tony, and then we've got a couple of questions from Chris that have come online. John?
Well, I'm a very simple person with very simple thoughts, and I believe that when it is safe to return, it will be safe to use cash.
Right, simple comment, as you say. Tony?
My point is the province can't instruct Masonic centres to start, or lodges to start using card readers. They're private lodges.
Right, which is another very valid point as well. Chris, do you want to move on to your questions?
Okay, I've got 3 come in, so we'll just do 2 and then we'll save the other one for in a few minutes' time. The first one is from Michael Carter. Is it likely that a re-evaluation of our 2025 festival will be forthcoming from the MCF?
Perhaps one for Pete Tong there, and then Dave wants to go.
Yeah, okay, that's not a problem. But the 2.25 million is, as we know, an aspiration. And at this moment in time, we've had a few months lead up, and we currently stand at £225,000 that has been donated towards the festival. We currently have some 438 active direct debit users, and so really the money is already coming in. And I think it's too early to even consider would we be asking for a lower figure, a lower aspiration. But as I say, it is an aspiration. We don't have to hit it. If we hit it, great. But I am not, having looked at the figures at this moment in time, unduly concerned about where we are with the festival. One thing that I do find quite encouraging is I'm getting quite a few contacts from brethren who are saying, I am putting aside what I would have given had I been going to lodge. How can I put that into the festival? And that's happening, quite frequently. So brethren are still putting money aside for it. I am confident that we will rise to the occasion, and I look forward to us hitting the aspirational goal.
Very good. Dave, you wanted to come in on that?
Yeah, great answer from Pete there. Just to say that if we did need to renegotiate, the MCF know that provinces are currently in the same boat. But we're very lucky. We've got 5 years from September for our festival. 1 or 2 provinces, neighbouring provinces, are pretty much at the end of their festival now. And again, they're well on track, and I've got 100% confidence that we will not only make, and I will use the word target because it's an MCF target, but I think we'll beat it, and I genuinely don't mind how long that takes, really. I think when we get back to meeting properly, people will get joining in again. All the events that have been postponed will be re-held. Yeah, 100% confident. If we get to a point in 5.5 years' time where we've raised tuppence more than the target, the amount that Peter's just mentioned, we might need to talk to the MCF, but I really don't think we'll be in that position.
Well, that's really reassuring, especially as it's just gone up by £2 because of the use of the T word twice. Thank you very much for that. Appreciate it.
I'm the only one who can use that word. The words we can't use are league tables.
Well, very good. Chris, do you want to take that next question?
Okay, this is your second question. This is coming from Nick Brown from Pornis. My chapter is coming to its centenary in 2034. Will the suspended meetings count towards it?
I think that's a Tony Miller question.
As far as I'm concerned, continuity of service continues because of a Masonic suspension. I can't see that they would be churlish enough to say that you've missed however many convocations, so therefore you don't reach your centenary or bicentenary or whatever. I think that would be very churlish of Grand Lodge, and if they did that, I know that the Right Worshipful Provincial Grand Master, Most Excellent Grand Superintendent, and I and Provincial Grand Scribee would be arguing against that.
I think I've seen somewhere, Tony, that I'm pretty sure in one of Graham Redmond's papers that he said continuity will continue because that's a time thing, not a meeting thing. And if scribes and secretaries are making an entry to say the meeting was postponed for all the reasons that we've said, that I don't think that'll be an issue.
Okay,
Allowed to postpone meetings.
Sorry, Tony, say again.
Well, you know, yeah, we're getting into semantics now, but I was just thinking 2034, that's very forward thinking from Nick Brown.
Indeed.
He is a very forward thinking Freemason.
And a young one as well. So, speaking of young people and forward looking, having seen the benefits of Zoom and getting more people involved in doing things in a different manner, Ian Rogers, who's also from 100 of LO, asks, would it not seem acceptable if we could use this advanced technology to carry out virtual rehearsals? Similarly, similar in a way, he says, to taking a lesson. Everyone could join in and would be kept interested and connected. Now, the face is getting pulled at the end of my screen there. Chris Watkins shaking his head, but Dave's desperate to come in. Dave, please do.
No, I am, because the guidance has gone out already. The guidance has gone out again this week. It's on the website. Tony sent it to all secretaries. Adrian sent it to all scribes. I just don't want to reiterate the 2 sides of A4 guidance that has gone out. It's all there in black and white. Tony, do you want to come in on that?
It's basically now you can't conduct any Masonic business or any ritual over the internet, Zoom, whatever video link you want to do. It's a no-go. Full stop.
It says you can practice, and that's fine, but without going through the page by page of the guidance, it is available. And if you haven't got it, please have a look on our website.
Thank you. Talking about money now, it's possible to apply for funds from the government to support our buildings. I wonder if you could spend a moment, Dave or Steve, explaining why it's not necessarily a good idea to apply for that grant and then give the money to charity.
Yeah, I'll go first if I may. 1 or 2 Masonic centres in Lincolnshire and around the country have applied for the grant and been successful. And my understanding of the grant, and there's been guidance twice from the Grand Superintendent of Works, is that that is for the upkeep of the building and the maintenance of your centre. So to accept, for example, £10,000 on the premise that it's for looking after your building during this crisis, and then say, we're now going to make a donation of £10,000 to a local charity, I think that would be not only counterproductive, but I think it will be very damaging to Freemasonry. I also am very aware that all those grants are now they're eligible for tax. Now, one or two Masonic centres manage quite well and don't really want to be viewed as eligible for tax. And one or two of our Masonic centres in this province are charitable concerns. So it may affect their charitable status if they then accept taxable money from the government. So I hope I make myself clear once again, as Tony said earlier, Masonic centres are private entities. I could never instruct a Masonic centre to do anything, but so I just think people have got to act honestly and with integrity, as we would expect people to do in Freemasonry anyway. I don't know if you want to add to that, Steve.
No, you've put it beautifully, Dave. The simple answer is that those grants should be on a needs basis, and clearly, if there is no need, then the grant shouldn't be applied for. Because, as you say, the misuse of any funds of that nature could be extremely damaging.
I think that's perfectly clear. Chris, can I hand over to you now? You've got a couple of questions, I think.
Yeah, actually, one of the questions that's coming from Charles Bolton is, have we experienced any difficulties with our caterers across the province supporting them all? And this is obviously apt with regard to the grant.
Yeah, I mean, we've had caterers in 2 centres have been providing meals for the local community. One is still doing that on a weekly basis, which is absolutely tremendous, contacting vulnerable Freemasons and other members of the community. All the other caterers in the province have been contacted. Some are furloughed, some are running their own businesses, some have got health issues themselves. 1 or 2 centres have paid their caterers to the end of the Masonic season, and they want to keep good relations to start with them again when we do start again. And I think 2 centres are actually in between caterers at the moment. So, yeah, as far as I'm aware, every Masonic centre has dealt with their own caterers, and we've made sure that they've done that. And then the answers that they've given are completely different. And I know the situation at Lincoln, for example, the caterer there, I think, voluntarily took himself out of the game because he's got health issues and 2 of his staff have got health issues, and they want to self-isolate, and they don't really want to be involved in providing meals for other people at the moment.
Thank you very much. So moving on to the resumption then, and we've got a question here that says, does the panel think, indeed have fears, that the cessation of normal Masonic activities becoming very long will lead to members having more spare time, getting used to having more spare time, taking part in other activities, and as a result will choose not to come back? They'd like to, this question would like to know, what mitigation does the panel think should be considered in that eventuality?
Yeah, I'll just briefly answer that if I may. Yes, I think that's a very genuine point and a very serious concern, and we are worried that if people get out the habit of going to meetings, they may get out that habit permanently. I'm also very aware that our demographic is quite an elderly group, and some of those individuals quite properly wouldn't want to come back until it's absolutely safe to do so. I understand that. But on a practical point of view, I've been to quite a few lodge meetings now, in inverted commas, virtual meetings, and the overwhelming sense I'm getting from those guys is that they are desperate to come back and really missing it. Now, another province have said they've had a massive increase in inquiries on their website during lockdown. So it would seem that the work that we're doing away from Masonry is impacting on people's view. And somebody made the correlation between both the First World War and the Second World War. When both those events had concluded, there was a massive upsurge in interest in Freemasonry. I'm not suggesting it will be the same now, but I hope that it is. I hope that current brethren feel engaged, but genuinely, I think, yes, it is a concern that if you've got out of a habit of doing something, you may not return to it. And I think that's a natural thing.
So in terms of engagement then, I wonder if you'd like to spend just a moment or two, Dave, reiterating your invitation or your willingness to accept invitations to virtual lodge meetings.
Absolutely. I think it'd be great if I managed to get around 70-ish of our lodges in lockdown. I've had 7 invitations already, which I've managed to get to. So all I'm saying to anybody and any lodge in the province, if you're having a virtual meeting, and you would like me to attend, email me, and my email address is on the website. Give me plenty of notice, send me the link, and genuinely, if I can come, then I will. You don't have to ask me, I don't mind not coming. But if there is a toast or taking wine, then I'll be there if I can.
Very good, thank you. So, have you got anything else there, Chris, in the meantime?
Certainly have. One statement and one question. Barry Harriman from Bourne has actually said that they've donated money to their caterer who has no work. So, huge well done there to the Bourne guys. Here's a question that's coming from Ian Rogers. This is a few questions back. After receiving several emails lately, I read we are not capable of using new technology like this Zoom to conduct Masonic business or LOI practices. Yet in the next email, officers have taken office with effect on the 13th of May, yet no lodges have been active since UGLE suspended all activities. That's from Ian Rogers.
Yeah, it was it just happens. People don't have to be physically invested at Provincial Grand Lodge. One person does have to be physically invested in Provincial Grand Chapter, and they won't be appointed until they are physically patented, as they call it, from Grand Lodge. And these same rules apply to Grand Lodge promotions and appointments in Grand Rank. So they become effective from the day that they were due. Sadly, that doesn't apply to craft lodges or chapters. So people, again, physically have to be invested at their meetings. I don't know if Tony wants to add to that.
Well, no, not really, Dave. You've answered it. They were told they were to be appointed as of the 13th of May, and as of the 13th of May, they took office, and rightly so.
Okay, thank you. Is that you clear for the moment, Chris?
I've got another one, but we'll keep that back for a little bit later.
Will we? Oh, I'm teasing us now. Okay, so now a couple for everyone to weigh in with. Shailen Munyon asks the question. He says, if you came across a genie who offered you one Masonic wish, what would you ask for? Silence from the panel. John Grimwood, please.
If Freemasonry has taught me one thing, it's tolerance. And I would ask for everybody to be tolerant, to have forbearance, and to adhere to the principles of brotherly love, relief, and truth.
Thank you. Spoken like a very good almoner. Anybody else? Tony, come in on that one.
My wish would be that once we get back to normal, every one of our members will come back fit, healthy, and raring to go.
Lovely. Anybody else like to come in on that one?
I think for me, if I had a wish to ask a genie, I would ask that when we start normal business, that we do have a massive upsurge in potential members who really see the true purpose of Freemasonry and not what they thought it was.
Thank you, Steve.
I think we just crave normality, don't we? All of us. Get back to normality.
Normality, yeah. That would be lovely. Chris, do you want to come in with your question now? Because I'm at the point of one or two little wrap-up ones.
Well, the one thing, just to answer the previous one, is I look forward to seeing my fellow brothers bricking myself on the ritual, getting a pat on the back from the virtual master when you've done it okay, and having a couple of beers at the festive board afterwards. And that's what I love about Freemasonry is that you know, it's just great, isn't it? I just love it. Anyway, sorry, getting on there. I genuinely am missing bricking myself with that ritual. I hate doing ritual, but I just kind of love it as well at the same time. Anyway, back to it. This is from Mr. Anonymous. How can we do virtual lodge meeting when we're not to conduct any business? How can we do virtual lodge meeting when we're not able to? Oh, sorry, your English is not very good there, my friend.
Basically, you're not conducting any Masonic business. It's a meeting basically for the lodge members to join, have a chat. There needs to be some format to it, but to chat and find out how they all are and keep everybody in the loop as to what's happening, and perhaps 10 o'clock toast at 8 o'clock or whatever to remember absent brethren.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Can I just say, this business about virtual meetings, I think what everybody has to realise is that Zoom, fantastic as it is not 100% foolproof or secure, shall we say. And I think this is the overriding issue that would prevent anything like that really taking off. I think the fact that these things can be hacked, regrettably, needs to be borne in mind.
Perhaps it's very early days, and a wish might be that we had our own Masonic enclosed system that we could all use and feel confident about. So, moving on now to what is the last submitted. Oh, wait a minute, there is another question that's coming on the chat before I move on to this last one. Oh, it's that David Buckingham again. He says, are the regional comms groups set up by UGLE still focused on their initial tasks, or has the focus changed now we're coming out of lockdown? I think out of lockdown's a tad enthusiastic and not optimistic. Dave?
Yeah, I'm with Lincolnshire, part of Regional Communication Group 6, which is Leicester and Rutland, Northampton, Hunts, Bedfordshire, Derbyshire, Nottinghamshire. And we are having regular COVID-19 meetings with the PGMs of those 6 provinces. And also, we are having our, what affectionately used to be called the East Midlands Forum, but it's now Regional Communication Group 6. So I had a meeting with the PGMs this week. Next Tuesday, I've got a meeting with RCG 6, which includes all the grant superintendents as well. So yeah, business as normal. We've got our normal things that we're doing and the COVID-19 stuff that we're doing in addition. So my time during lockdown has probably been as busy, if not busier, than when we'll be physically meeting, which is bizarre because all the PGMs in our region are saying the same. But I think it has kept us out of any sort of mischief, and it keeps us occupied. If I give you an example, I had 4.5 hours of Zoom meetings on Tuesday morning. We had a regional meeting at 8:30, which was a bit of a shock. And then we had a a communications and marketing meeting at 11 o'clock. And at 1 o'clock, I was quite looking forward to my sandwich for lunch.
Right. Another question just landed from Graham Cadell to all the panelists. He says he's someone who doesn't mind asking daft questions. What's the difference between a rehearsal and a practice? He says one's okay and the other isn't. I'm not sure what he means by that.
No, neither am I. As far as I'm concerned, a practice is a rehearsal. A rehearsal is a practice, and they shouldn't be done on Zoom meetings.
No. Okay, so the last...
John wanted to ask or say something.
Oh, sorry, I missed that altogether. John, do go on.
Regarding meetings, the Provincial Grand Almoner has had a Group 6 meeting yesterday with the MCF, so that's continuing as normal.
Good, thank you. So last question then, this is Chris Fletcher in Brigg, asking what's the vision for Freemasonry in Lincolnshire? I guess it's 3 questions here, in 5, 10 and 20 years' time. Dave, can we start with you on that?
Yeah, I mean, I've still got my provincial priorities, which I can run through now if you like. The short version in my headings, I've got them with me because I thought it might come up. My number 1 priority is to increase numbers of Freemasons in Lincolnshire and to retain members. I think that's as relevant now as when we set that 2 years ago. To promote the Royal Arch, because clearly I'm the head of Craft and the Royal Arch. To introduce what we call a combined media strategy. Now, the first part of that was getting our website to the state that Chris Bradley and Stuart Pearcey have got it now, which is absolutely superb. The second part of that is being more open in the community and promoting Freemasonry overtly in the community through either open days or giving talks to groups and just making people aware of things that we haven't been able to do in the previous 50 years. So, and the final point for my period is to actively promote the 2025 festival. And whilst that is a little bit on the back burner at the moment, we will get back into full festival activities in due course. That's 5 years. I don't propose anything beyond 5 years. For me, it's difficult to say what the future is beyond that, but they're my provincial priorities at the moment, and because they're strategic priorities, I don't see them changing that much. The detail will change, but the overarching strategy are those 4 points.
And I guess that makes those the priorities for all of us. Chris is waving at me. He's also sent me a text. He's got a question.
Okay.
Fire away, please, Chris.
So Steve Siddle has said 2 messages. I'm going to read his first one to embarrass him. Steve, I've never met you, but I love you to bits. But predictive text has hurt him. Has a list of the now active pelvic coal officers, it should have been provincial, but we're renaming it pelvic coal officers, been released for distribution?
Where's this pelvic coal come from?
It means provincial.
Oh, right.
Yeah, he's been the victim of predictive text.
I don't know who used predictive text.
Can you answer us the question about the list of officers, Tony?
The list of officers has been published. It will be in the Blue Book or the Yearbook or the modified Yearbook when it comes out. And a list of the officers will be sent round to all lodge secretaries when I get round to it, when the PGM gives me 5 minutes to be able to catch up.
Thank you very much.
I think
Chris.
just to add to that answer, with the best will in the world, the provincial office is closed and has been closed for 8 weeks. Now, Tony has worked tremendously hard from home and occasionally sneaking into the office to check the mail and to check emails to the provincial account. I've said he's done so well that I'm prepared to increase his salary next year. And for those that don't know, tongue in cheek, Tony does this, as we all do, as a volunteer, and he's worked very, very hard behind the scenes.
Okay. Chris, did you have another question there?
No, we're done. Thank you.
Okay. Well, that's all the questions that I've got. We've got nothing coming in online, which I guess leads me to say thank you very much for taking part. We had 80 people register. We've had 55 online. Thank you for tuning in. I wonder, Dave, if you'd like to give us some closing remarks.
No, I hope it's been of use. One of the things we've been trying not to do is bombard people with too much information. I appreciate people get the same email from many different sources and the same information. But I think people do like to be informed. We're trying to reduce the amount of communication, obviously, during the summer break. But the minute we get any critical information, then it's incumbent on me to share that with everybody. As I said at the very beginning, if this has been useful, we're more than happy to do it again. I hope it has. And I just want to thank everybody, not only the 50 people online who've been patiently listening and submitting questions, but also the panel for putting themselves out there today in pretty much unknown territory and answering the questions very honestly, I think, and I've learnt a lot from tonight.
I'm quite happy to receive any feedback you might like to make to Stuart, that's Stuart, at wordsman, wordsman.co.uk. And if there's nothing further, then I guess I'll call the meeting to a close at 5 to 8.
Perfect time.
An hour later. Cheers.
Thank you. Thanks, Chris. Thanks.
Yes, thank you, Chris. Good night, everybody. Oh,
bye, Dopey.
Bye, Grumpy.
Bye, everybody. Have a good weekend.
bye-bye, everybody.
Adios.